Hello there, YouTube. This is Chuck again, and today I'm coming to you from our local airport. It's Friday, December 16th. We got a taxiing airplane in the way, so we're going to have some noise here. Maybe we'll catch him on takeoff. But got a couple airport stories for you. I thought this would be a good place to talk about them. Well, we got it taken off right here. Let me catch him. Look at that. That's quite the plane. That's a de Havilland Twin Otter with floats on. Never seen that one before. I hope I got that okay. Wow, that's pretty special. Oh, well, let me get around here where I can talk to you. It's a beautiful day today. It's a little chilly. It's mid-40s. A little bit of a breeze. There's still some snow on the ground. I'll pan around and show you that here in a minute. But I had a couple of interesting firefighter stories from the airport that I thought I would tell you about today. I've been kind of going around scouting stories. I got a bunch of ideas kicking around in my head. And the firefighter stories haven't really gotten a lot of traction on the channel, but I think that's just because they haven't really, the people that like that kind of stuff haven't found my channel yet. I think it'll probably pick up a little bit. My van stories are doing well. My travel stories have been doing well. But the firefighter stories not so much. And I did a couple of them that were kind of tragic, and I'm going to try to stay away from that, although there are some tragic stories that need to be told. But anyway, getting back to what I'm talking about today, is I'm going to give you a little pan here, and I'm going to show you what we got here at our airport. There's a big fence here, and I hope it doesn't mess up the picture too much. Let me pan back around, panning slowly. I realize we're going kind of into the sun, but I can't show you what I want to show you without doing that. Now, this building right directly in front of us with a big airplane door, that's an airplane maintenance building. The building beyond that with the picture windows is actually a little cafe, a restaurant. And they have excellent hamburgers, excellent breakfasts, and they advertise that they have $1 million view. Then on past that, there's some hangars. One of my first videos I shot was a helicopter taking off that was shot right over there. Then we have a runway's about 6,000 foot long, which will take care of medium airplanes. I'm going to pan back around and talk about some of the views, some of the country that you're seeing. And we're looking through a fence, and I know that. You might wonder why the fence is so tall. I'm going to tell you about that. It's not for people. What you're looking at over here is the Mogollon Rim, or the Mogollon Rim. Either pronunciation is correct. The Spanish pronunciation of Mogollon is probably more accurate. But what you're looking at right in front of me there is that's a big peninsula that sticks out from the edge of the rim called Milk Ranch Point. And the Milk Ranch was a dairy. There used to be a dairy up there. The town of Pine and the town of Strawberry are back over there, about the middle of the picture. Then as we pan a little bit further to the right, there's a little mound, a little high spot, a little hill. It's right directly in front of us right now, and that's Baker Butte. Baker Butte has, it's actually the highest point on the rim. I talked about that when I shot my van tour video, but it's just a smidge over 8,000 foot, and it's the highest point on the rim. Then as we pan on across, you see a lot of that area doesn't have trees on it, and that's because it's been burned over in various forest fires over the years. The Dude Fire being the largest one in 1990 that took out most of the section of rim that you see here. And then as we look straight off here to the east, that little point right directly at the edge of the tree line right in the middle of the picture now, that's Diamond Point. And there's actually a forest fire lookout tower up there. That's about 6,300 feet. The story I want to tell you today happened right down here at this end of the runway, and we were called up here for a plane crash, and so we responded naturally. And when we got up here, we found a light aircraft that had basically made a hard landing, and the plane wasn't tore up real bad. The only occupant was the pilot, and he got banged up a bit, and but the thing, it didn't burn or anything. It just came in hard enough that it collapsed the landing gear and slid down the runway a bit. So, we checked out we checked the pilot out for injuries, and we recommended that he go to the hospital and be checked out. And he agreed to do that, so we put him in an ambulance and sent him off to the hospital to be checked out. Well, the police, of course, they responded, and the airport crew, their big goal was to hurry up and document the scene and then get the aircraft off the runway so they could open the airport back up again, because we were blocking the runway. So they're kind of concentrating on that, and police detectives were a little bit delayed getting up here. So anyway, what happened was the police detectives got up here and they got the N number off the plane and they ran it, and believe it or not, it came back stolen. And so they headed for the hospital to go get this guy. Well, this guy was cool as a cucumber. He was like Secret Agent James Bond or something. He never gave us any indication of anything suspicious, anything like that. He did get banged up a little bit in the landing, and so he went in the ambulance. As soon as he got over to the hospital, he apparently got up and walked out the door, and must have had somebody going to meet him or something, because he disappeared, and they had a big manhunt looking for him, and they never did find him. And what turned out with the airplane is the airplane ran out of gas on the approach. And that's why it's a wonder he didn't put it into the mountain somewhere, but he ended up making it to the runway, tearing up the plane. The other thing that was interesting about it is he had a big briefcase thing with him, and boy, he did not want to turn loose of that. And we noticed that, but we didn't think it was particularly suspicious at the time. So thinking back on it now, we don't know whether it was full of drugs or full of money or what it might have been full of, but whatever it was pretty important to him. And like I say, he never gave us any indication to us or the police that there was anything suspicious about it. He went ahead and agreed to go to the hospital to be checked. As soon as he got over there, he ducked out the door. And nobody, as far as I know, they never did find him. This happened quite a few years ago. So that's one of my stories. The other story ties in with the fencing that you see. If you notice, they've got about a 7-foot tall chain link fence with all the way around the airport now. They didn't used to have that. They used to just have a livestock fence. And what we would end up doing is we'd end up getting elk on the runway. They would just hop over the fence and they'd come out here at night. Looks like we got another one either landing or taking off. Let me see if I can. He's just cruising. He's obviously not taking off. Maybe he just landed. But anyway, the elk could get out on the runway, and we actually had some airplane elk collisions out here. And the one that comes to mind was about midnight. A guy came in to land, and he got his plane slowed down to about 40, 45 mile an hour. It happened right out kind of in front of where I'm filming right now. And all of a sudden, there's this big cow elk standing crossways in the runway right in front of him. Of course, there's nothing he can do about it. So he ran into it and tore up his airplane and killed the elk, and it didn't hurt him, fortunately. So we got dispatched on it and came up here and made sure there was no fire issues and made sure his medical needs were taken care of. And so Arizona used to have a deal that if you hit a wild animal out on the road somewhere, you could keep the meat if you wanted it. And there's a form that all the law enforcement people carried where you could sign this form and say you wanted the meat, and you could have the meat. So if you hit a deer or an elk or something out on the highway, you could have the meat. Well, they asked this guy, he said, well, I guess that applies to airplanes too. And he said, okay, but he said, I don't really want the meat. I don't have a use for it. I'm going to spin you around so I can talk to you a little bit more. Hopefully I got the light right here. I'm trying to get better on the light. But anyway, so he asked the fire guys on the engine crew. He said, would you guys like the elk? Well, it turned out one of the guys was a reserve firefighter, but his day job, he was a meat cutter. And so he said, sure, we'll take it. He was also a hunter. We'll take it. So he went dashing. I think he called his wife and told her to bring his knives up. And so we're out here at 3 o'clock in the morning on the runway cleaning up this elk and quartering it. And he took it back and he cut it up, and we all feasted on elk for quite a while. And of course they were up here for about an hour cleaning up the mess on the runway and all this kind of stuff. But they built this big fence around this the airport now to keep the elk out. And of course it makes it look like a concentration camp, but that's what you got to do. Those elk, they'll jump over a 5-foot fence without thinking too much about it. So anyway, that's my my airport stories. Let me add one little postscript to that is when there were times when we would have city council meetings and we have some developer, somebody would fly in for the city council meeting and want to leave and go back home after the meeting was over. And that was usually, sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night. And there have been some times that we would come up here, and before we'd let them get in their airplane and take off, we'd go out and drive up and down this runway and run all the elk off, blowing our sirens at them and everything, and getting all the elk off the runway so the plane could take off. I've done that myself a couple of times. Usually the police did it, but there have been a couple of times when they didn't have any officers available, and I actually brought the developers up to do that. And so that's just kind of funny little sidebar, life in a small town years ago. A couple airport stories. I'm going to pan you around a little bit more and show you what I didn't show you. There's really not much more to see. There's this little tie-down area right in front of us here now. That's a Forest Service kind of camps on that during fire season. And they'll usually base a couple of helicopters down here. And got a couple of airplanes over here that are being worked on, as you can see. And back up here's the parking area. This is pretty popular in the summertime. They got benches and where you can sit in the shade and watch airplanes. Pan you back around. I'll come up here and just, maybe I get out of the sun here for. There we go. Now maybe that won't be okay. And we're back over there. The little building with a sign on top is the airport manager's office, and of course they sell fuel here. And the medical helicopters come up here to get fuel, and they fly right over my house, going back and forth to the hospital. So with that, I'll let you go for now. And this is probably, I don't know how long this has run, but probably a little longer than it should have. But thought you'd be interested in hearing those fun stories and firefighter life in a small town. And we're going to let you go for now. So be kind to each other, take care of each other, love each other, and we'll talk to you on the next one. And peace out.